Hypnosis can be defined as a heightened state of suggestibility that's brought about through a process of relaxation, concentration, and cooperation. But before we talk too much about hypnosis itself, it's important to understand the human mind. Now, the human mind is composed primarily of two parts, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. If you think of the mind as being like an iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, which is what you see on the surface, seems to be awesome, seems to be powerful, and indeed it is. The major function of the conscious mind is to bring in information through the five physical senses, sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell, process that information and respond to it, respond to the environment that you're immediately aware of, to concentrate, to focus, to plan, to act, and to react. Now, below the surface, just like with an iceberg, is something that's bigger, much more powerful, much more awesome. That's what's known as the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind has two major functions, one of which is to be a repository of all the thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, experiences that you've had throughout your entire lifetime. Another function of the subconscious mind is to be in charge of the autonomic functions of the body. Now, what we mean by that is functions such as your heartbeat, your respiration, blinking of your eyes, your digestion. All of these functions that are sort of, I guess you might say, autopilot type functions. Functions that you don't necessarily have to consciously be aware of and think about throughout the day. Because if you did, you wouldn't have time for anything else. For example, blinking is one of those functions that the subconscious mind has control over. It tells you when to blink. If you had to consciously decide when to blink throughout the day, you wouldn't have time to do very much else. Now, the subconscious mind and the conscious mind are developed throughout our entire lifetime. And the subconscious mind, from about birth to around age 6 or so, is like a tape recorder that's constantly on record. It's taking in information uncritically and recording that information. That information, those experiences, could be positive experiences or negative experiences. And they build up a body of associations that are going to be used throughout your entire lifetime. As I said, this is all done uncritically up until about the age of 6. So that, for example, if your parents say to you that on Christmas Eve, a big man in a red suit with a white beard comes down the chimney and puts presents under the tree, you believe it. Because they're bigger than you, older than you, smarter than you, and they're your parents. They're authority figures. So of course you believe what they say. And that's recorded in your subconscious mind, and then throughout your lifetime, you respond to that particular association in various ways throughout your life, depending on what kind of other experiences have come along. And these experiences, as I said, can be positive or negative. For example, if your first experience of a dog was an experience of your neighbor's German Shepherd jumping over the fence, pouncing on you, knocking you down, causing you pain, and biting you, then you have a negative experience in your subconscious mind associated with dog. And because of the emotional impact of that original experience, it's going to stay with you and be firmly rooted in your subconscious mind, so you're going to respond. Whenever you see a dog or anything associated with dogs throughout your entire life, you're going to respond with some kind of primeval response to that image of dog. And it's going to be a negative one. And this is one of the ways that fears and phobias develop, by the experiences, the negative experiences that we've had in our childhood. Now, there are also positive experiences, like the experience of Santa Claus. It's one that we enjoy, and even in our adult life, most of us associate Santa Claus with some very pleasant experiences. Another part of the mind that's developed around the age 6 or after is something that's called the critical mind. Now, this is actually a kind of filter between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. It's that part of our mind that begins to question things, a capacity that we didn't have when we were younger, so that by the time you reach the age of 7 or so, you begin to think, well, this big man in a red suit who comes down the chimney, that doesn't seem really to be possible, because if somebody is that big, they'd get stuck in the chimney and they'd get all dirty because of all the soot and the ashes in the chimney. And how could one person go around the entire world in one night and give presents to all the children of the world? See, this critical mind, this critical faculty, now begins to take some of those associations that are in the subconscious mind and question them, especially when new information comes into the conscious mind. Once a new experience comes in, or some kind of new experience, information comes into the conscious mind, it kind of runs an immediate Google search of the subconscious mind and its content and looks for something to associate it with. And then it decides whether it's going to accept or reject this new information that's coming in. So that's the critical mind. Now, to get back for just a moment to this idea of the positives and negatives in the subconscious mind, in my office I have a fishbowl, and that fishbowl has in it a number of stones, polished stones, some of which are white and some of which are black. Now imagine that the white stones are positive experiences and memories and feelings and thoughts. The black stones are those negative experiences and thoughts and feelings. Now when they're mixed together, you know, you can see some black ones and you can see some white ones. But the more black stones that you put in, the more negative experiences that you put into the subconscious mind, the more they begin to predominate, the more they begin to take over, and vice versa. If you have some negative experiences in the subconscious mind, but you load up that subconscious mind with positive experiences, that's a different story. Then the black ones begin to disappear. They don't really disappear, they're still there, but they're overwhelmed by the positive experiences. And this is one of the things that we do in hypnosis. When someone has some kind of behavior that they want to change, some kind of negative behavior, we help them through hypnosis to imagine positive behaviors, see themselves doing these positive behaviors using their imagination, and we pile these on. We reinforce them over and over again with hypnosis and with self-hypnosis.